I'm Carrie from Lovely Etc. and in this video I'm going to show you how to paint and stencil a wood floor. I think that stencil floors are beautiful and they're incredibly inexpensive compared to all of the other flooring options that are out there. So today I am going to show you our screened-in porch floor that I just finished stenciling. It started out as a really basic plywood floor. When we moved in, it was actually covered in AstroTurf, which was not my favorite look. So I'm going to tell you all about how to create a gorgeous floor. So the most important part of any paint job is the prep. It is the really boring part, but it's really important because if you don't prep your surface appropriately, then your paint's not going to stick. And that's true whether you're talking about furniture or floors. So the first step is cleaning. Paint will never stick to dirt, dust, pollen, grease, anything nasty like that. So you need to clean your floor really thoroughly. You can sweep it, vacuum it, and then you need to either mop it, or if it's really bad, get down and scrub it with some, just Dawn dish soap will work, with some water and an old rag. Get it really clean. Once it's clean, if your floor has been painted before, there's a good chance that the paint is peeling and loose. That was the case for our floor. I had painted it previously when I got tired of the AstroTurf look, and now 10 years have passed and it was definitely time to do some freshening up. So I used a paint scraper to scrape off all of the loose paint, and then sanded it down to make it smooth, make sure everything loose was gone. There's still one more important thing you have to do before you can actually paint, and that is using primer. Using a good primer is really important to make sure that you're going to have a quality paint job that will last. And nobody wants to take all the time to paint a gorgeous floor that is already peeling and getting messed up within months. So for primer, I am always a huge fan of Zinsser oil-based primer. As you can see, this can is well loved. That's what I used on our porch floor. It's also what I've used when I was painting interior floors, and it's what I use for furniture and pretty much everything. Okay, so you have your primer. Just use a regular old paint roller to roll it on to your floor. You can use a paintbrush to get around the edges, but other than that, a paint roller will make it a really quick job. Once the primer is totally dry, you can paint your base coat of paint. So my base coat of paint is white, the white shade. And again, you're just going to use a paint roller, roll it on out, and go around the edges with a paintbrush. Painting a floor is actually really easy because there's no windows or outlets or anything you have to worry about cutting it around, so go super quick. You're probably going to need to do 2 coats of paint of your base color. Once that's totally dry, you can get ready for the fun part. So around my porch, I painted a border. It makes it a lot easier to stencil because you don't have to stencil all the way up into the corners, which gets kind of tricky, and it also just kind of finished it off and looks really nice.
Painting the border is easy. Use a tape measure to measure 1.5 inches from the wall and put down a strip of painter's tape. Use an extra piece of painter's tape as a spacer to help place the tape for the other side of the border. Once it's in place, just remove the spacer. The trick to getting perfect paint lines is to start by painting your border the same color as your base coat. This seals the edges of the painter's tape so you get perfectly crisp lines. When that dries, paint the border its final color. You can use a brush or a small foam paint roller, whichever is more convenient. Then carefully pull up the painter's tape before the paint fully dries. This will help prevent the tape from pulling up the paint with it. And now you're ready to stencil.
The stencil I used is the Anatolia tile stencil from Royal Design Studios. I'll put a link to that in the video description. Basically, when you're choosing a stencil for a floor, you want to have a nice big pattern that is repeating and that has enough detail that you're not going to see every tiny imperfection and crumb that falls on your floor.
The fastest, easiest way to stencil a floor is with a small foam paint roller. Lay your stencil in place and make sure it is straight, and then use a couple of pieces of painter's tape to keep it in place if needed. Roll a bit of paint onto your roller and then roll off the excess onto a stack of paper towels. You want your roller to be slightly damp but not dripping paint. Then just gently roll the roller over the entire stencil design. Do not press down hard on the roller or paint can squish out and seep under the stencil, which is not what you want. You'll get the hang of how much paint to use and how firmly to press pretty quickly. But if you've never stenciled before, it's a good idea to do a practice run on a piece of poster board or scrap wood before starting on your floor. The stenciling goes a lot quicker than you might think because you only need 1 coat of paint for each stencil. So once you've rolled over the entire stencil, just gently pick your stencil straight up and move it to the next section. Line up the pattern, tape it down, and repeat until the floor is finished. Once your floor is finished, be extra gentle with it for the first few days. After the first 24 hours or so, you should be safe to walk on your floor, but be careful moving furniture around because paint can take up to 30 days to fully harden. Now that is one beautiful plywood floor.
And that's how I use stencil a floor. I have shared hundreds of DIY tutorials on my blog, lovelyetc.com, but this is my first YouTube video, so I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sure that my next videos will be much better, and I hope that you will subscribe to my channel so that I can share lots more budget DIY projects with you to help create a beautiful home that you love without spending a lot of money. If that's something you're interested in, I also have a free guide to choosing the best paints for whatever DIY project you have coming up next, whether you're painting floors or hardware or fabric or something else, at my website, and I'll put a link to that in the description as well. Thanks!